Hi there, we are Deja Brew. I'm Katie.
I'm Haylee.
Olivia.
I'm Cailey.
I'm Danielle.
So to start off, we will explain the overall purpose of our research. When speaking with our client, we identified a couple main goals Second Wind was hoping to accomplish when working with us. One of those was being the establishment of a potential donor base that Second Wind should target. Throughout our research, we identified a key target audience would be students at the University of Oklahoma who will serve as donors as well as customers. We also wanted to identify how we could further establish Second Wind's mission within the community and how to reach new potential customers. To do this, we needed to better understand the social media presence of Second Wind and had to identify how we could better build on the platforms that Second Wind had already established.
So our group conducted multiple types of research to really understand students and people who live in the Norman community, understand their attitude towards Second Wind and just nonprofits in general. Different methods we used were in-depth interview method, survey method, and yes, okay. So our in-depth interviews were around 30 to 60 minutes each. They were all very confidential and they were all one-on-one. We asked different questions. So one was, as Second Wind is a locally owned coffee shop, do you see a difference between this type of organization and a large-scale national chain? And then we asked, what would influence you into donating at a local nonprofit? And how do you feel about the suggested price? Would you make any changes?
Another research method that we conducted was our social media audit. So through this research, we compared social media channels to other coffee shops in Norman. And through this, we identified the amount of followers, key messages communicated through these businesses and organizations' social media channels, and then their different communication styles and the frequency of posts. We also conducted our surveys. So our survey was sent out to our key public to better understand why people donate to nonprofits, to observe the correlation of social media and brand awareness, and also to compare likable and non-likable factors of Second Wind versus its competitors. So through our survey, these were our demographics. So we had 393 total participants. We had 72.7% female and 27.3% male. We also had 60% of those participants were students compared to 39.1% of non-students. So our community members in Norman. And then our age range through the survey was 99.2% were older than the age of 18 and 0.8% were younger than 18.
So with those research methods, we're going to go more about what we found in the results. So going to in-depth interview, we found four big themes throughout all the interviews. And the first one is their perceptions of shopping locally. Everyone prefers local shopping just because you get to support small businesses, and they're mainly positively viewed amongst all the interviewees. The second thing would be the ideal study environment. If you're a college student or a full-time employee, you're really focused on getting your work done, and to do that, you have to be in an environment that you feel comfortable in. And for people who want to work in coffee shops, it was really important that they had some background noise, a welcoming environment, an open space, and overall just to feel accepted and to be surrounded by those who are similar to them. The third theme that we found was their willingness to donate. A lot of people really didn't know what Second Wind was and what they were about, but after learning more about them and their mission, more people showed interest in donating, and they were also more inclined to buy a cup of coffee as a form of their donation. And then the final thing that we found would be their suggestions for improvement. So the first one is to be more aware of the location because it's kind of hidden in campus corners, so not a lot of people know where it is. The second is no suggested price points. There was a lot of mixed opinions about the suggested price point because some people believe that it kind of defeats the purpose of the pay what you can system. And then the third and final one is better advertisement, whether that be through social media, the talking on campus, or word of mouth. Just having more awareness of what Second Wind is and what they're about could help them a lot. And then these are just a couple quotes from the interviewee. So the first one relates to their ideal study environment. It says, "I think my ideal study environment would consist of nice music playing, and a lot of people my age studying. I also like to study at my house or the local library." And then the second quote talks about donating, and it says, "It helps the community and the people who are involved in the organization, so I definitely see benefits in doing that. I'm sure if I really liked the coffee shop and I was prompted to donate, I would do it." So moving on to social media audit, we compared Second Wind with Gray Owl and Haystack because those are the three local coffee shops in Norman and they're really well known. So going off the slide, Second Wind has 1,282 followers on Instagram, 1,772 followers on Facebook, 202 followers on Twitter, and then Gray Owl has 2,130 followers on Instagram, 5,835 followers on Facebook, 899 followers on Twitter, and then Haystack has 2,178 followers on Instagram, 657 followers on Facebook, and then 56 followers on Twitter. So just looking overall, Gray Owl has the most followings out of the three, but surprisingly, they have the most lackluster social media presence. So going back to Second Wind, overall, they have a pretty good social media presence. They're really good with their Instagram and their Facebook, but they really lack their Twitter and their website. It hasn't been updated for about, I think, a year or two. And the main problem with Second Wind is their inconsistencies due to the change of leadership and the change of leadership and a designated social media person. For Gray Owl, overall, like I said, they have a pretty lackluster social media presence. They have inconsistent content, low engagement. Their content consists of graphics that are really text heavy. And then for Haystack, they are actually the strongest social media presence. They had a really nice vibe and aesthetic, and their website was most updated with a lot of UI UX designs. They're very consistent with their posts and their content. But going back to Second Wind, this is an example of what their Instagram feed looks like now. And with that being said, we have three ultimate goals for them. So the first one is to rebrand all platforms and website. And to do that, we would update their pictures and graphics that follows a clear and concise color palette and font choices. And we would also want to create more UI UX designs to restructure their call to action buttons because everything is so outdated. And then the second goal is to have better consistency because consistency is key. We want to see them post weekdays from noon to 5 to gain more traction. And with their problem of not having a consistent feed, we think it'd be really nice to have a designated social media person. And if they do transition to a new leadership per semester or year, it'd be nice to have some rules or guidelines so that they can follow, whether that be like the color palette, the font choices, or the overall voice of what they're trying to go for. And then the final goal is to have more interactive and engaging posts so they can create more pictures highlighting the product and the experience. So for example, it would be maybe a picture of a loyal customer with drinking their favorite coffee. So that alone can gain a lot of followers, or maybe posting more about a live event that they're showcasing that day. Basically just overall creating content that appeals to their key public, and they could also create more social media engagement by doing like Instagram stories. So a day in my life, ask me questions. That would also be a really good idea for any community member or student to reach out to Second and know more about them, what they want to do.
So through our survey, we wanted to gain further insight on students and community members on their perceptions of local coffee shops and donating to nonprofits. We used the data from our survey to better understand why people donate and their behaviors in terms of their viewpoints on donating to local coffee shops. With our data, we were able to look into if social media is important to the brand's awareness within the Norman community. We were also able to compare the differences between Second Wind and its competitors in terms of what are likable and what are not likable factors. After analyzing the data, we can now understand what Second Wind can do to make themselves better against their competitors. So one of our survey questions was how important is understanding the donation impact, and we had 389 participants respond to this question, and we found that it is important for donators to know the donation that the impact their donation has. And we also asked what factors make it more difficult for donors to donate. And the most common reason that donors have difficulty donating is due to financial issues. And then we also asked our survey participants their willingness to donate. And we found that it is very, many donors do want to donate to a local nonprofit, and that they think it would be a worthwhile investment.
Okay. Using all of the research that we found over this past semester through the things such as the in-depth interview, the survey, things like that, we have a couple recommendations that we think Second Wind could make to really improve their business model. The first one being, as we talked about, their social media presence. It's very inconsistent across their website to Facebook to Twitter and then to Instagram. Keeping that consistent posting media-wise, if you're posting on Instagram, your Facebook followers aren't going to see it. You know, a different number of followers, different people. You want to be able to reach all target audiences by really making sure all platforms are hit. Now, when you do hit those platforms, making sure they're consistent and they have one message and one aesthetic really creates a cohesive online presence. And this makes you look, well put together and organized to those target audience that you're trying to reach. So matching your website to your social media pages will really ensure that. And then the final one would really be understanding donors. As we discussed, most of the donors to Second Wind in this target audience are students. And from our research, we found that most students aren't willing to donate more than maybe $10. And so understanding that by reaching them, you have to do it through ways such as the pay what you can system and things like that, and don't look so much for the big donations like the multi-$100 ones. So understanding that they are college students and the way they donate may be different from other target audiences. So really understanding them will really make sure that all time and energy is focused on what will prove beneficial for the company.
That is the end of our final presentation. Thank you so much.